if you guys have not seen these are a couple of interesting clips from Tenet Media. This is Taylor. I want to say his last name is Hansen. I should have looked that up beforehand. But he's going around this rally or this convention. Maybe it's at a rally, or maybe it looks like it's at a Kamala event. But these are people that are voting for Kamala because they're afraid of their rights getting taken away. So this is one where he goes up and asks, like, why do you support Kamala Harris? So let's have a listen.
Voting for Kamala Harris.
I don't want to lose my rights. Like, I'm a trans man and I'm gay and I have been pregnant and I've had an abortion before and I don't want to lose that. I'm afraid of not being able to be myself anymore because from what I've heard, Trump's America doesn't want me to look like this. So that's why I'm here today and that's why I'm voting blue.
What about you?
I've also been pregnant and had an abortion before. I was a minor and it would have been dangerous for me to properly, like, it would have been dangerous for me to carry a baby with, like, personal reasons and everything. I also, like, I'm very, alternative, and I feel like if Trump were to win, I wouldn't be able to, like, express myself through my looks and everything, and wouldn't be able to have the piercings or the dyed hair or the tattoos that I want. I would be able to be myself, and my dad's very pro-Trump, and I'm just very
Pro-Kamala.
pro-Kamala. Yeah, I don't, it's
Does
just,
that cause a divide at all?
yeah, it definitely does.
We've got the first person here that says they are a trans man that has had an abortion. So that's just so sad. It's so sad. And then this young lady here who has also had an abortion. I don't know the personal circumstances of it, and I am not shaming her for that. I don't, it's clear that she probably went through something very traumatic. Both of these people seem to be under the extremely false impression that they wouldn't be able to wear what they want to wear or express themselves how they want to express themselves if Trump got elected. And I would hope that this person would go back and talk to their dad, and because they look very young, so I'm sure that they were both probably in high school when Trump was the president, and there's a lot of high school kids just not paying attention. They don't need to pay attention to what is going on in the world. They don't really have to worry about policy because things like taxes and healthcare and security, when it comes to the border and all these things, they don't really have to think about that. Their parents are worrying about that stuff for them. But when they get out into the world and they hear all of these things, then they worry about these very superficial things, and they still haven't had a lot of real world experience. I just want to set these girls, their mind at ease. You can wear black. I went to high school quite a while ago with people that dress like this. This is not a right that anybody is coming after. No one's going to stop you from looking like this. As far as whether or not you are a woman that wants to identify as a man, no one is going to stop you from believing that's what you are, but no one's going to put into federally force people to not use the pronouns for themselves that they want to use, but it's going to it's going to stay my personal choice as to whether or not I want to use those pronouns. It's going to protect my free speech. It's not about just your personal expression. It's about each of us, and both of us being able to adhere to what we believe and express ourselves in that way. I want to be able to express myself as a Christian. I want to be able to live my life as a Christian and to be able to express myself and to go to church and to speak about God in public without offending somebody. But those are the kind of things that a Harris-Walz administration would absolutely want to get rid of, and those things would be directly under attack. We're on the same page when it comes to wanting to have this freedom of expression, but the very people that you are supporting, Harris-Walz, they are against those things. They are in favor of censorship. They are in favor of government enforcement of censorship. When it comes down to our gun rights and our right to protect ourselves and our community, once those are gone, none of us have the right to express ourselves in the way that we want to. So it really is sad when these people are so confused about how things really run. And of course, the public education system has done that on purpose. They have made sure that these next generations do not understand how the country works. They don't understand what these terms like dictator and fascist actually mean. They have made sure that they have no idea what communism means. They have made sure that they're so confused about what freedom and liberty actually are versus what communism and dictatorship is, that they have the meanings of these things completely reversed. And it is absolutely terrifying. I have nothing against these two young ladies, and I know that the one said that they are a trans man, and you know, you are allowed to believe that. You are allowed to have that belief about yourself, but it is my personal right to not go along with that because you are a woman. And that's not to say that if I call you a woman, that I expect you to dress or behave a certain way. You are still welcome to look that way and express yourself in that way. So these are right here a couple of Kamala Harris voters, a couple of very young people that don't know how the world works. So, you know, that's pretty much their bread and butter. We've got a couple more here.
Y'all voting for Kamala Harris?
It's ridiculous how anymore it's really hard for people like us, like queer people, and just anyone else in that um, general umbrella. Thank you. General umbrella. It's just really hard for us to get rights, and with how the Republicans are handling everything, it's just putting more and more stress on us, like basically taking away everything we have. And it's just important that we feel safe just even living here, because everyone's been wanting to like leave the country, and this is like the only chance we have to properly fix everything.
That's, again, just a really sad statement because I don't see anybody running away from the US. We have millions of people, in fact, that are running toward the US. Thing that that most people are up in arms about when it comes to these queer identities, which I'll get into in a minute about what that really means. But it's about the fact that this has taken over the education system, that this is taking up far too much class time. Teachers across the country, particularly in blue districts. I live in a fantastic school district with my kids, and so far I have not seen any of this stuff. Not to say that it couldn't happen here, but it really hasn't been as bad. But I know that in other areas like California and Oregon and you know, New York, that you're going to see all of this pride stuff everywhere, that you're going to see the pride parades, you're going to see the drag queens reading to kids, you're going to see the open displays of nudity, as we saw in the raids in San Francisco. Those things are not a right. That is not your right to do that. It is not your right to teach a child that that is how the world works. It is not your right as a teacher to instill those values and that belief system into a child. That is what we are talking about here. You can be who you want to be. You can live your life how you want to, but you don't get to infringe on other people, especially in the public education system where that is meant to be geared towards academics and learning. And we want to make sure our kids emerge from the system knowing how to read and write and do math and all of these things, which they are not able to do. We want to make sure that those things are happening and not being taken over by this activism. You know, I had a really good friend in high school, and she went through this phase where she's just this pale girl with this curly hair, and she chopped it all off and dyed it black, and she started doing goth, and she started, you know, kind of dressing like a lot of these people, and it was her thing. It was a phase. It was a phase that she went through, and now she looks like a completely different person. Like, that is not who she was at that time. You would never guess, looking at her now, that she ever went through that phase. And we want people that are young to be able to figure out who they are without doing this permanent harm to their psychology, to their mental state, to their emotional well-being, and to their physical well-being before they get to a place where they truly understand the impact of these long-term decisions and what it means to every other aspect of their life, when it comes to their professional life, when it comes to their personal life. There are so many things that have just gotten so confused in this conversation, and you can see that. And, you know, it really does take maturity and experience usually to get to this place. Although unfortunately we have far too many older people my age and older that seem to have fallen into these kind of talking points as well. But let me see what this other girl has to say.
What about you?
I would definitely say that I want to keep my rights. I really do. As a queer individual and someone who's physically disabled, and may not like be able to do certain things, I feel like they probably wouldn't have accommodations for someone like me.
I highly recommend going over to James Lindsay. His channel is New Discourses on YouTube. If you want to understand this the identity of queer, it really has nothing, it has nothing at all actually to do with your sexuality. It has nothing at all to do with your gender identity. It is a political identity, and he does a great job of explaining it. But clearly what, the purposes of this queer identity, of these talking points, has really taken hold here. I will link his video in the description box below, but he explains all of this in depth and why this ideology has been instilled in so many young people in this way, and that, it is clearly accomplishing the purposes that it was meant for. But I found it really interesting to discover that queer really truly has nothing to do with your type of like sexuality or your gender identity as these people think it does. It is really about your political activism. It is a political stance that is meant to destroy anything that has been standard across the board. So it really is just against the norm, is the best way to describe it, which is what all of these kids have been trained to believe. So these are the Kamala Harris supporters right now.